We will start here, and I will introduce Ms. Karen Siler, Director of Strategic Accounts. Like I mentioned, she is calling in from the East Coast, so we are fortunate to get her attention, and it's always nice to see Karen, because I feel like even I generally email or talk with her over the phone. Aside from, I guess, the many Zoom calls we've been on lately. But to introduce Karen, one thing we know for sure is this industry is maturing. It's drawing a lot of parallels between food and bev, proving that CBD and cannabinoids should be treated just like any other ingredient. And there's no one more qualified to talk about this other than Karen Siler. She has over 20 years food and bev experience. She's worked with a number of brands, Snapple Dr. Pepper, Kraft Heinz, many more, kind of the heavyweights. So she's an indicator that this industry is going in the right direction. Any situation that we've encountered in the product development phase, working with a client, she's been able to draw for experience from her personal, and professional background working in food and bev. So, she's definitely helped our entire team, implement strategies and processes that align with food and bev so that CBD can continue to move in the right direction, and so can SORSE. So on that note, I will let Karen Siler, calling in from the East Coast, take it away with the maturity of the CBD and cannabis industry.
Thank you. And I think maturity is probably a good place to start. Ironic that it's, to me, probably one of the more senior of the team. So thank you for that, because I think this is a crazy year. And so I apologize for some of the awkwardness of having to do all these remote sessions. Some of you I know, some of you I look forward to sharing time in the future with. Fortunately, this is the last quote presentation. I know there's wrap up and sort of a summary discussion, but thank you for your patience in dealing with the remote presentation. So we'll spend a few minutes. We'll try to catch up on some of the time, but we'll spend a few minutes chilling together and kind of, as the photo indicates. A little bit of context to bring things into context is I have spent over 25 years in the food and beverage industry, and that's centered through the channel that was sort of diversified from small and regional accounts to very complex accounts developing strategies. So my intent today is to kind of share some of that information and to reinforce that as a team between all the players and all the participants of SORSE that work very hard to have a complete and comprehensive understanding of principles and flows and process from development to shelf stability. So this has become an evolution and an acceptance by consumers. So let's rock the poll, Diane. So does anybody remember this Cheech and Chong reference?
Well, so far it looks like a lot of people do know the reference, Karen. We're at about 65%, 70% know the reference. I will tell you, when Karen and I were talking about this slide and putting it in, there were members of our team that were like, who? What? Which definitely made us feel
more mature.
A little bit old.
I think that
50-50. So yeah, 50-50 right now. So it looks like, part of our audience definitely remembers this and kind of the old stigma, if you will. And the other 50% have only seen today's version of CBD, which is great.
Good. That is good. A lot to learn.
Yeah. All right. I'll close this one out.
Thank you. I will go ahead and move to the next one. Wait. There we go. There we go. So I think with that, having seen what was, we can also see that we're making a correlation between then and now. And as we do that, those with maturity would observe that the industry is growing up. That, as you indicated, or just the poll supported, that there's like 50% who know and who don't. But I think even more importantly, or one of the biggest changes that I've observed, is that CBD is being looked at by people who wouldn't necessarily in the community looked at it the same way 8 years ago. So for health and wellness specifically, You can take a frame of like my mother who would say, oh my God, that's marijuana. I can't do that. When now it's becoming much more mainstream, much more accepted. And folks are beginning to consume that we wouldn't automatically have assumed would even consider in the past, and are listening to what some of the functional attributes of these products can deliver, and have an open mind where may not have been the case some time ago. But with that open mind comes a little bit of expectation on our part to provide things that are safe, have strong quality presence, and are consistent, that drives the marketplace. So as a result of that, our regulation for this is continuing. We're established and continuing to establish standards and best practices for manufacture and consumption, as well as distribution of these products with different regulation and best practices like ISO, GSFI, GMP, and lots of acronyms that all just speak to good, safe practice in the food industry. Because we're sort of aligning with the food industry, not sort of, but we are aligning with the food industry and the ingredient supply. There are already established best practices, and there are streamlines for process for scalability, and the target consumer, because of that, understands that we're following some of the guidelines that are already in place. We're developing other ones, but we're mainstreaming and taglining with processes and practices that are currently being used. Our vision with this evolution is to help position you and your products into the market quickly, and positioning with not just CBD. And a lot of this has been discussed in detail specifically on prior presentations, but I think it's good to affirm that what we're doing is a collective collaboration. Well, that sounds like a redundancy, but a collaboration on just not the opportunity for CBD as a standalone, but functionally how that can help you develop what your goal and objective is. And include more than one of the adaptogens or other functional attributes in your system, and customize something that isn't just standard. So the good news, move this forward. The good news is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel for that. As we work with your vision, there's already a setup established for success. So there's experience with the FDA and other regulatory bodies. There are established and quality safe guidelines. We have partners to fulfill some of the needs that may be the next steps of your development process with regard to manufacturing, distribution, placement, that kind of thing, in addition to the development work that we do with you. And we can learn by examples. For when you look back in time, there were omega-3s, there was fiber, there was vitamin C, and we're expanding other functional ingredients like terpenes, adaptogens, things that have been talked about a little bit already, supplements in different formats and delivery systems, herbs and extracts, flavors. Our goal is to give you the experience of success. And when I think about that, I think about a time that I was working with, and I think one of our participants in the summit and I were working with the large red box company or beverage supplier out of Atlanta, and they developed a blueberry and pomegranate omega-3 beverage. And when we were working on that, it was like, oh, it's going to launch, but you never believe until you see. You're like, oh gosh, when's it going to launch? So I can remember continually walking down the grocery store aisle to see if it was in fact on display. And one day I had no cart. I thought, I'm just going to walk in and check. Happened to pass by. Lo and behold, it was stocked. And I was like, whoa! Ran and got a cart, loaded every single bottle into that cart. And this was some time ago. Dropped one on the way, so had to have clean up aisle one. And then proceeded to check out. And I'm on the telephone, of course. And as I'm looking at my cart saying, what is wrong with you? You've bought every one. No one else can have any. So I turn the cart back and proceed to put 2/3 back on the shelf. I'm only repeating this because I think it speaks to that moment of connection to launch. You did it. It's out there. People buy it. And you point and go, yeah. So I think that's just a fun part of what we'd like to see for you as you think about what you want to bring to market next. So with all that bring to market next, there will be increased regulation. It's just expected. So there used to be not much regulation, which led to a lot of inaccurate dosing. Quality systems weren't up to par. What's happening now? Well, we're preparing for regulation. And how are we doing that? So in this moment, we have applied for self-affirmation for GRAS. That status is pending. And what GRAS is just general. It means general, another acronym. It's generally recognized as safe. So our recommendation is, as you're going through this process, take a look at, speak to, engage with us, engage with your own legal team, take a look at your organizations that are locally supporting and growing the sector, and we'll work together to help you see where best to use it. And again, this has been spoken to through other segments, but good to reinforce that. And why is it important to know current statuses and where things are? It's because it prevents reformulation as you go to market. You don't want to have to pull it back and do it again. It reduces the potential barriers for other retailers to put you on their shelves. You really get ahead of the curve. This becomes an umbrella, if you will, of acceptance, and it opens the door to more mainstream retailers to say, yeah, come on in, we've got some shelf space, just based on what you're developing. And that leads to making you a more valuable partner, and provides consumer safety, which is what the mainstream consumer is reading a lot of labels and wants to know what the status of the ingredients are. So again, we can give guidance on trends, acceptance, and such. When I heard my colleagues talking about different trends and different ingredients, when you look in the grocery store, it's sort of an evolution to say, there's basically nothing that this won't work in but lettuce. Like if you look on the shelves, that's a quote from another colleague, actually. But when you look on the shelves and say, well, what about CBD here? What about CBD there? And I don't mean in things that are far out that have no efficacy in why you're using it. But in the grocery store, there's basically probably no category or no shelf where it wouldn't work well in the development side. So scalability and growth. Oh, yeah. So with that, if we talk a little bit about higher quality goods, increased production, and more distribution options. So in the olden days, or not so olden days, but with traditional consumption methods, it wasn't always the sensory experience that was being considered. And I know our group has spoken with y'all about what that sensory experience can impact and what it can be like. So we're looking at that from a well-rounded perspective, that we're not just throwing some cannabis in a bottle with some water and here you go. So it's helping in that more comprehensive approach. Back then, too, a lot of the sourcing for cannabis and cannabinoids was unprofessional, flaky, almost backroom kind of transactional issues versus relationship-built credible practices. There were limited partners for that. A lot of people were skeptical to step in because they weren't quite sure what that would mean and how it would impact them as a whole. And traditional food and beverage companies were part of that skepticism. They weren't ready to jump in. There's still a lot that aren't full throttle, obviously, but are engaged at a lot of different varied levels. So now it looks a little bit different, a lot of bit different. And traditional food and beverage companies are supporting CBD development, even if they're holding back a little bit, but they're ready and they're on the sidelines. Some of you are here today. You're just waiting for that FDA go light. But by doing it now, you're getting to market first or ahead of that curve. There's that umbrella of what we do that will allow the acceptance in the market once the trigger is pulled. More charlatans are being eliminated. You take a look at when this first came out, there were a lot of people selling CBD or cannabinoid products. And now that's shrunk, but we're here. We were there. We are here now, and we're going to be here. So more retail opportunities. A lot of retailers are pulling product in. And the trend that people are accepting it and maturing through this then and now phase is leading to what consumers want. What consumers want, retailers provide, development persists, and shelf space is created. So I think that's kind of the framework there. I just get to talking and don't push the button. CBD is mirroring in our sort of perspective of what fiber experienced, say, over a decade ago. So the function, fiber was promoted as a functional ingredient. There were multiple form factors. There were lots of things that it went in. It really lent itself to consumers who had an active lifestyle, who were concerned about mobility, would consider increasing the fiber content. It was just good for you. So now fiber is still an ingredient. It wasn't a fad that came and went. We think that CBD isn't a fad as well. We believe it is a trend. It's trending up, up, up. It's becoming more mainstream, and it's here to stay. We believe it's contributing to the broader acceptance of a total increase in functional acceptance and experience of ingredients as a whole. And again, that goes back to can be used as a standalone or could be used as part of a functional package or delivery system. So our approach with SORSE and technology is we leverage the experience and the full skill set and broad acceptability in the food and beverage platform for our customers. So we can provide on a proactive level product development and formulation, contingency planning. Again, we've applied for self-affirmed GRAS status, and that's pending. Establish standards for supplier and production partners, and internal and third-party testing. So we've implemented practices as we've grown up and are prepared to offer those same practices and support to you as you develop your products to move forward to get on the shelf. So we also have options. So I think John had mentioned there isn't just a one-size-fits-all standard. Here's your powder, here's your liquid. No, we have a variety of products that can meet your specific needs and tailor to what your base material is that you're delivering the CBD in. Non-GMO, kosher, gluten-free, allergen-free, all natural. So we have options. Again, I think some of these things have been spoken to in detail. It's more of a, I gotta wrap up here, that we're looking towards the following organizations just really to integrate into the forum and to be an active partner with the industry. So to become credible, well, we are credible, but to become the go-to people that know what the industry is doing, that know what our customers want, that know where the maturity of the industry is taking us, what the trends are. And we work with certain organizations to become more engaged, and as the industry grows with it. And as such, and I know we've had speakers on this, but the AOAC, which is the testing protocol, and the Hemp and Cannabinoid Science Institute, which I think a lot of time was spent on that. And the founding member of that was our one and only Chief Science Officer, Scott Riefler. So it's becoming evident to us that the ingredient is becoming much more strongly recognized, and we're trying to, or we are staying part of what is here and now and what's moving us forward. So the mission is to help our customers, you, produce high quality, enjoyable CBD infused products by really using all of our people, our diverse platform, our diverse people, leveraging our technology with food and beverage experience in the industry to continue to evolve, to be proactive in our recommendations, to call you periodically and say, I saw this on the market and I think you need to look at it. Because it would be sort of a brand expansion of what you're already doing. And that is what we do with a lot of our customers who want to move forward and to grow. So we help you create more opportunity so that we can support that in a proactive way. Just some of the products that we're seeing are the continued low calorie, low sugar in beverages and edibles, topicals, supplements, lifestyle specific diet needs, and in different delivery systems, whether that's a ready to drink, an infused product with a powder. It's basically, I think, one of the categories, not to speak to trends, but maturity is the overall wellness. So if we look at overall wellness, that people, daily life recovery just in and of itself. I think the next wave of hot trends is focused by consumer demand. And we're seeing that demand continue to increase with the acceptance of CBD. And we are able to provide that in many forms. So again, when you succeed, we succeed. However you professionally or personally define success, we're here to help. Its actual definition is an accomplishment. It's a noun, and it's an accomplishment of or an aim or purpose for. When my son was learning to write, so 4 or something like that, on the double-lined paper that you would see in handwriting class, which I don't think they give anymore, success was his topic. And he said, success is having my mommy and daddy be proud of what I do. So we're here to help you to reach your personal and professional level and to help you feel great about the success you achieve. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you so much, Karen. I think there's been a lot of information shared today through you and some of the other presenters that's been really helpful for our audience. We already had a few people ask for copies of the slides for this particular session. So it's certainly something that people found interesting, and not just because you had a Cheech and Chong van to open it up. So thank you so much, Karen.